Well, major shifts in power, contested elections, and intense military conflict. Lance Wallnau talks about the prophetic significance of what's happening in our world. If you're enjoying Table Talk, be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Remember to click that notification bell to stay up to date on all of our latest posts. Well, division, protest, and shifts in geopolitical powers, is there a prophetic significance to what we're seeing happen in our world? Well, with the help of today's guest, we're going to find out. But first, joining me on the table to help figure all this out, Michael Simons.
Oh, and I got so much.
Yeah, I know. Like, what is going on?
It's going to be so good. Oh, man.
Yeah.
A lot's going on, and we need to be informed.
We do, but we don't need to be afraid.
Exactly.
It's so good. Anna Kendall.
No fear here.
No fear.
That's right.
Hey, that's a song.
How about that?
That's right.
Yes.
Rachel Lamb Brown, my daughter, how
Can
are
I
you?
just tell you, I've turned off the news for like 3 months, so I am so excited for like a catch up on what's happening in our world today.
Me too.
I know, it's depressing if you watch. I mean,
Yeah.
seriously, and you don't even hear the truth. That's the thing.
And he's going to give us the truth today.
My youngest daughter, Rebecca Lamb Weiss, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
You doing pretty good? I asked you on the way
Marching
down
forward.
here, do you have the baby all settled? Because you have a 6-month-old now.
Yeah, and he was not settled when I left, but he was kind of settled.
Kind of settled.
Yeah, Rachel knows the struggle.
Yes.
Okay. Cindy Murdoch, how are you?
I'm good. I just keep reminding myself he's a big, big God.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we might not have to go out to battle,
Yeah.
because they did throughout the word. They had to fight. And so we just got to hear what the Lord
We
is
got
saying.
to be strong and courageous.
Yes, strong
Yeah,
and
for sure.
courageous.
Well, known as a bold voice in today's generation, he's here to talk about recent global events and why they matter. Please help welcome back our dear friend, Lance Wallnau is here.
Always love being here.
Yeah, I tell
love you
everybody that
being
you
here.
say this is your favorite.
This is my favorite.
Favorite.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. you
I
know.
find out more things here than you know, than I get in the news.
All right, well, are we seeing a supernatural shaking of all of man's infrastructure, and is there a purpose behind it? Well, today, Lance is here with us to look at recent global events to uncover why they are significant. We did want to make this show more about what's happening globally, and of course, Daystar is the network that goes into every country in the world.
Right.
And I guess we could start with Brazil and Brazil's election.
my gosh.
What is really going on, and why are we not seeing this covered in the news
Exactly.
here in America?
Well, because the news in America is the Democratic Party news system, which is so leftist that they actually are supporting Marxism. So, I mean, let me give you the bad news is that there's a Marxist takeover of Brazil and all of Latin America, with the exception of 1 or 2 countries. China is largely behind it, because communist China, looking at this thing as a prophetic conversation, we become a little bit narcissistic in America on our own news cycle. I understand that we absorb with ourselves, but we have to really pull out of that and see that there's a bigger game going on. It isn't all about us, it's about the world.
See the big picture.
The big picture gives you your part. So if you want to really know what's going on with America, you look at the top of the lid like a puzzle. It's all these pieces. And what you do is you look at the big picture, and then you see where America fits.
Right.
If you start with just your piece, you're in chaos. But if you see the picture, so here's what's happening. Central and South America is going largely communist. It's organized. It's a political movement. There was actually a gathering I was warned about, working with governments. So I work with governments in South America, Central America. And in Brazil, I've been down there with Bolsonaro. And the Christians there are the backbone of the strong, really open democracies.
They're very bold in their faith.
They're bold in their faith.
Yeah.
They stand, they pray with the president. The wives are frequently meeting with intercessors. The church in South America is, in a sense, more progressive than the United States because they've gotten past the political issue. They say whoever's got government is a danger. We must be there. We have to be at the table.
Yes.
We cannot trust the Sandinistas. We cannot trust communist China. They will lock us down. So they're very bold about being infused in the government process, which is why they are very upset in Brazil right now, because they've only had machines. They have not had paper ballots. In other words, if you have paper, you can verify. If you have paper, you can audit. They've only had these machines. Bolsonaro said, we have got to get rid of them. Look at what happened in America.
Right.
They said, oh no, we like the machines. We like the machines, and we're going to keep the machines. So he couldn't get election reform going. As a result, it's quite possible he won in Brazil. Certainly, it's like, was Biden really more popular than Barack Obama by millions of votes?
Yeah.
I don't think so, because the millions of people are pouring out in the street right now for Bolsonaro. Lula, who is the guy who won, was in prison. He was in prison
Which
for
is
embezzling money from the
mind-blowing.
government because the left, they pay their cronies off.
How do you get a guy out of prison to run?
They do it easy.
Like-
They have a corrupt Supreme Court. So if the Democrats could pack the court, they'd undo Roe v. Wade. They'd be dealing stuff left and right. So they packed the court with an extreme leftist leaning judiciary that went back and said, basically, we think there might be a technicality somewhere in that decision. Even though we agree that he did take money, we're going to overturn that decision because he could run against Bolsonaro and beat him.
Well, especially with the voting machines.
Yes.
With the machines, and he had popularity and name recognition. They knew they had to have someone with name recognition.
Yeah.
So they did it. Now
So they got
they
him out of jail.
They basically got a criminal to get elected.
I think we have some footage of a protest that took place in Brazil that was unbelievable.
Right, I
We're
know.
talking about
We're not
a
covering
million
this.
people out there.
Millions. I'm telling you, millions. That's why you got a news blackout in the United States. And weirdly enough, we sent our CIA down there, our corrupt little government CIA down there to go. There it is.
Look at the people.
Yes.
Wow.
So is there anything
my
that can be
goodness.
done about this, especially with such a mass response from their
Yeah,
people?
what can the people of Brazil do?
Because this is Joni's table talk, I'll give you a little inside information. So I talked with the military guys down there, some military insiders. The military is with Bolsonaro. They don't like what's happening because he's a former military guy. They're saying that they have, by their constitution, the authority to audit the election. And there are two camps. Now, here's where it gets weird. Two camps around Bolsonaro telling me two different stories. One is saying, look, he's so strong. We know it was stolen, but he's got strength in Parliament. He's got 30% of the guys behind him. He's got two of the strongest governors are conservative. We're not going to let Lula get away with completely making us like Marxists. Let's just go ahead and let it go. See, the people that are in power don't want to get into a civil war and lose their power.
It's kind of like the rhinos of
There's the
America.
right. He's got him. He's got him. Now, the other generals are saying, we have enough evidence, so we will go to the corrupt Supreme Court, and the military will make the case, here's what we have. We want to redo the election. And if they refuse to do it, then they have defied the military when we've made the case that it was stolen. Now you've got a divided nation. Or the evidence can be so overwhelming that they'll have to let us have an election reform and another election.
so that could happen. So I mean,
It's like that
kinda
right now.
hanging in
So
the
when we
balance.
talk about pray for Brazil, what are we praying for? This is what you're praying for.
Okay.
Pray, because I really believe Netanyahu's victory, Gina Meloni in Italy, the Swedish government, the French government, everything's moving as a backlash to the craziness of the left.
Yes, yes.
It's all moving in the direction of restoring sanity.
Yes.
This is our moment for actual great awakening.
This is the moment for the Great Awakening.
It's the
This
moment.
is the moment.
So I'm just praying that for South America's sake, the window is held open for the Great Awakening.
Okay, the British Prime Minister steps down. Why is that important?
Hugely important, because ever since the UK Brexited, they broke away from the European Union. Think of the European Union as beast Europe. You have the beast in the east, which is China, growing up over the Asiatic area. Then you have the beast in Europe. The ultimate place is going to come out of the Middle East, which nobody's even talking about. So keep your radar up on what's going to come out of there. But right now it's in Europe. And so Brussels controls the European Union. The European Union is all the states. They wanted to see themselves, the World Economic Forum, Davos, the world's great power brokers convening there in Switzerland, and they're going to meet in Europe, and they basically want they want the reset, which would be the world with these guys as the global new government and currency masters, remaking the world in their image. You'll own nothing, but you'll be happy. What's happened there is Brexit interrupted that ambition because once you have one of the dominant economies, maybe the number one along with Germany, when it breaks away from the European Union,
Right.
they never let it get away. And now that they're tied in to this awkward trying to get on their own 2 feet so they could trade with countries, you have the war with Ukraine. And
Right.
so now that pulls them into a commitment to being part of the EU there.
Right.
So the economics, though, of being half in and half out has crushed the UK.
Okay.
So therefore, they pull out Boris Johnson. They put in this woman who's supposed to be the reformer, and she's just part of the compromise solution. She comes up with a wacky idea. We're going to not tax anyone at all. Fails completely. They put in now one of the, this is like, tell you, it's like a soap opera. It's one of the Davos World Economic Forum darlings. They put in a guy who's all about digital capital and market formation. In other words, digital currency. He's one of the globalists.
Wow.
So now we are back at this game where the guy who's supposedly leading the Brexit nation ain't going to go anywhere because he's really in sympathy with that Davos thing. And when God, in my opinion, allows Russia to rise up and put a tire right into the whole one world government agenda with Ukraine. Ukraine was the forward island of the European outpost with Zelensky as being, remember, they were going to have, this was going to be a digital currency nation, LGBTQ. It was going to be all the darling programs of the West, including environmentalism and anti-Russia, 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 which is the American obsession. And Putin said, no. And so he pushed back as a nationalist. He thinks the West is in decadent total decline. In his worldview, the Russian Orthodox Christian worldview, I know this is going to be a hard pill to swallow, he's more under the influence of Christian ideology than Europe or the United States left.
Wow.
Because he's saying, look, man, this whole LGBTQ abortion thing, you guys are in free fall. Transgender's perverse. He said, I'm going with historic Christian nationalism in his version, which is restoring the glory of the old Soviet Union. He has put a nail in the tire of the European Union, and now you're watching the whole thing wobble like that. Which
Just
is
like
why.
Trump did when he got elected.
Why
Same
didn't-
thing, right?
Absolutely.
A
It
nail in the
was,
tire, yeah.
and here's the thing, we think of Europe as disconnected. I'm going to encourage you to look at Europe as 1 year ahead of the United States prophetically. I watch Europe for a different reason. I heard Steve Bannon say it once, or somebody said it, and these secular type prophets, like Rush Limbaugh, people, I used to listen to them and they go, man, they're right. And I started getting educated, listening to them. He says, these guys say, watch Europe because they're a year or two ahead of the United States. So when you see Hungary breaking with Brussels, when you saw Brexit, it was the early sign that America was going to have a populist movement and Trump would be the Brexit guy. Wow. He'd build a wall, he'd take on the establishment.
Okay, so let's talk about Benjamin Netanyahu coming back in power in Israel. What's
Were
the
you shocked
significance?
by that?
I was pleasantly surprised because
He's like the
I knew
Energizer Bunny.
I knew he wouldn't be gone for long.
He keeps coming back.
He does.
oh, it's amazing. Oh, but
Can't keep him down.
the weird thing is what they do with, if you look at Israel, it's like a mini United States. They're trying to impeach him. Oh, he's embroiled in another scandal.
Right.
Oh, well, you know, and what is it? He received a box of cigars from someone. Oh, and he's pilfering money
take.
from the government.
Yeah.
He's on the take. Yeah, and it's like I'm reading this going, the media is, we got to really understand this media thing is so demonic.
Yes, it is.
Because they level all those accusations against the guy. And if you're like, if you're 50-50 with the country, the media can tilt your election future. Boom, so he's down underwater, so he's out, but he's back. You know why he's back? Because I think that the one thing Israelis do unify around is the threat of Muslim and Iranian attack.
Absolutely.
And so they sense something. They sense we should be really prophetically tuning in with
And they
this.
know he
As a strong leader.
is a strong leader.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's talk about communist China and the empire of the dragon that is now taking over the world.
What in the world? Yeah, so here's so they're watching the midterms. This is what bothers me about what we're not going to talk about. They're looking at us and they're saying, do they have to deal with Trump? Because that kind of closes the window. Where are they economically? It's all about economics, because economics And remember this, finance and governments, they're hand in hand. They're looking for the collapse of the West economically. And they're watching to see how far down we go, because we have the banking power to still keep them from invading Taiwan. Remember, they're out to take over the Silicon Valley of the East. They can have absolute full spectrum dominance of technology if they can take Taiwan. And the nature of the beast system is empire. It's expansive. It takes over things. The nature of sovereign nations is to respect boundaries. We're a sovereign nation people. And that's why ultimately I'm saying sheep nations and goat nations. Goat nations are going to be part of the empire, assimilating in lawlessness. What it can't have, it will take. Sovereign nations are going to retain their boundaries. And that's Christian influence, basically, is holding up boundaries. So the beast in the East is looking at the United States and seeing it looks weaker. It doesn't look like it's going to recover. And if they can succeed in getting the natural resources of South America. Now you see why the chessboard's important? They want Brazil, because Bolsonaro was keeping them from South America. He was the dominant Cyrus God-man who was blocking them, just like Trump was blocking things. So if they can remove Bolsonaro, then China now has one belt, one road, work with the corrupt Marxists, start buying up, doing deals, spreading around some money, and controlling the infrastructure. The dragon now has Marxism, and it's wrapping around under the United States. It's already up there in Canada with socialism, with Trudeau. It's closing in on a vice from the United States. In Europe, thank God, that's being removed as a factor. So we're not fighting a two-front war with the European Union and World Economic Forum and the dragon. But make no mistake about it, the dragon is our ultimate biggest threat. And because it's playing the game very well. They're waiting for the collapse of the dollar. So they're trying to get the BRICS nations, which would be like, they're gonna try to put together an international federation of governments to form a new monetary group that will decouple from the dollar. So that once that happens and China is able to see the American dollar and economy crash, it can take Taiwan and assert itself as the new global order leader. That's how serious the stakes are.
Wow.
Well, first of all, thanks for being the news for us so we don't have to watch it. And secondly, can you tell us about the transhumanism empire of Europe?
Their ultimate goal, of course, the fever dream they have, is that science and technology is going to rule the world. And of course, European scientists, and they believe Israel, that they have the science advantage, along with the American pharmaceuticals, who are part of the globalist empire, by the way. These guys, the big corporations don't make money just in America. They make money around the world. And so they're interested in the globalist vision. Transhumanism, what they want to do is they want to take, remember this, they're now, crazy enough, they're now moving, it's either environmentalism or it's going to be vaccine COVID stuff. Either one they will use as the herding mechanism, like to herd nations like cattle herders into shutting down, locking down, and giving them power.
Okay, what about, tell us about the election in Italy.
What makes the election, so Giorgia Meloni, what makes this great is this woman could be sitting at the table with you. So she's outspoken, strong, Christian, female, who says that we are not going to become reduced to your vaccine distribution center. We're not just some kind of a little cog in a wheel that you're going to manipulate. We're actual human beings and people and mothers. We actually want male and female. We don't want to have this blended spectrum of sexuality. We aren't interested in you controlling our economy. We want to have a choice for what we do, and we're pushing back now.
And what does the media say about her? Because they absolutely hate her.
Oh, it's lovely. So you could tell if they categorize you like Viktor Orban or Bolsonaro or Trump, if they say that you are a fascist,
yes,
a right-wing nationalist, and remember this: the prediction is the Christians and the Catholics, the Protestants, the traditional Christian influence in Italy is actually what politically pushed her in spite of the Pope and in the presence of the Pope. Right down the street from the Vatican, they said, we're not interested in what you have to say about this, because they see him as more politician than religious.
Right.
So they've decided their own fate, and they're going to attack Christian nationalism as the danger to global unification.
Can she stand up to that?
She
Yeah.
is standing up.
I mean, is that going to continue?
Because she has like 20%, but she has the coalition. So it's really weird there. We have two parties. In these other countries, they have 5, 6, 7. So you start looking at them and saying, well, they have to cobble together some kind of coalition government, is what it's called. But they have the coalition that agree with her. So her coalition is strong enough to be able to hold back. Now,
She is amazing.
Now, they're in trouble economically. And so the European Union is going to have a moment. If you want a little inside baseball, you're going to see a David and Goliath moment happen for her, because she's going to go up against the European Union, Davos, with their national debt. And she's going to say, you want us to stay in here, or you want us to end up like the UK? You've got to give us some relief. We're the 5th largest economy in Europe. And they're going to say, you're going to play ball with us, or we're going to crush you economically. And she could actually push back if she has the courage to do so and say, well, how about we Brexit just like Great Britain? That'll freak them out, because if Italy goes, the whole thing starts to frighten.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done like a little tour around the world. Let's talk about the rise of the populist patriot.
Around the world, what we're seeing is, remember, COVID shut everything down.
Yes.
We were in shock in the United States because we had a 4-year plan for recovery that was interrupted, it seems. The January 6th nonsense about how that's insurrection. So we have had nothing but trauma in the West, which has got Christians like us really concerned.
And a
because
lot
we're
of
saying,
fear. A lot of
a
fear.
lot of fear.
mongering,
What is
yeah.
God doing? But I want you to see something. In Brazil, Bolsonaro hasn't totally given up yet down there. In Europe, we're watching Netanyahu come back. We're watching Giorgia Meloni. We're watching the push. We're watching the movement of the pendulum go from the left back to sovereign nations, strong governments, and traditional values.
God, yes.
This means that I believe that there is a pause that God is giving us. Now, I pray that we're wise to know what to do. I don't think when Trump came in, the church understood what to do. I think we thought he was going to do something. And we sat back as sideline critics and rated his tweets. So when the walls of Jericho go down, you have to know what you're supposed to go in and take. But Christians are told not to be involved with government, not to be involved with the world system until, it's bad teaching, basically.
Yeah.
So when the door's there, what do we do? I'm telling you, the walls are coming down again. And God is saying, I'm giving you a reset. Not their reset, my reset. He's holding back the end time scenario of all these nefarious evils I described. I'm confident because I see God stop it. I watch how he does it. I'm amazed. It's like, oh, Lord, we're going over a cliff. The Lord goes, no, not yet. And he intervenes, and he keeps it from happening. So I'm going, you're being very gracious with us, Lord. All over. He's stopping the madness, but there's a window opening for global awakening. We have to go through the world in this coming moment with the great end-time harvest mechanism. That's why Daystar is so important.
I think that we do have to realize, I said it earlier on, God is a big God, but if we read the scriptures, they weren't able to sit back and just say, okay, we'll just believe God to take care of it all. God said, be strong and courageous and go fight.
Absolutely.
Go fight and take all the spoils. So it's not always going to be pretty. It's not always going to be nice.
Right.
Because when you're taking the enemy, it can be ugly.
What you're saying is true, and I'm sorry. We have become a spectator community. What we think that praying for something, or even sending a check or making a Facebook post, is the equivalent of engaging the battle. That's not. We actually have to go into the precinct, go into the school board, go into the meeting, and if you do go, you'll know you've scored points when you get persecuted. That's when I know I'm hitting the target. When Right Wing Watch, the Washington Post, Daily Beast, or whoever is singling me out and lying about me. It's like, well, what did I do?
I saw that.
That's interesting. And so Rolling Stone comes out with an article, attacks me, lies about what I earn and what I do. Total slander. I mean, I guess I could sue them, but I'm looking at it and going, what am I doing that is getting me on the radar with these people? I must be doing something right.
Yes, you are.
And I believe that it's because I'm saying we have got to be governmentally engaged.
Yes.
We have to occupy till he
Yes.
comes. We
Yes.
cannot be preoccupied with how we survive. We have to take territory. God has given us nations. Christians that can't think in terms of nations should not be talking right now, because nations are on the table.
Yes, they
Psalm
are.
2, the kings of the earth rise up and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed. And God says, I've set my king upon the hill. Who are you nations and rulers to tell me what to do? This is the hour for Jesus to get nations.
I believe that.
So what country do we keep our eyes on at this point?
Italy and Meloni, for the reason I said, she's gonna face off, and pray that she's strong enough to stare down
Yes.
the Brussels and the European Union, and that she doesn't blink. Hungary, continue with Viktor Orban. He is being punished because he refuses to let the LGBTQ curriculum come into the school systems, and he refuses to bow the knee on culture. Same thing with Poland. We have to pray. We're going to pray that the funding for Ukraine and World War III stops. That they have to get to the table and have a solution.
Yes.
Pray for Brazil, because Bolsonaro, you know what he said? He said it to me. He said it out loud. He said, I will either be president or I will be dead. People miss this about Trump. People say, well, is he going to run? Is he not? I wish he wouldn't run. I wish DeSantis would run. Here's the main thing. When you get to a certain level, like Bolsonaro and Trump, you have so inserted yourself into the corrupt criminal regimes that are in the earth,
Right.
that you know their goal is to put you in prison and destroy your children. This is the devil. They're going after Trump's kids. They're going after his business. He has no choice. It's not about, well, should he run? We're naive about this. Bolsonaro and Trump look at this like a zero-sum game. Either they win or they're going to be imprisoned by the corrupt system or killed or assassinated.
Quickly, and I've only got a few seconds left, but thinking about Ukraine and even watching how many Ukrainian Jews went back to Israel, all of that is a part of biblical prophecy as well, isn't it? We still have to keep our eye on Israel.
God has his way in a whirlwind. And that's why I'm confident about the future of the United States. I'm not saying it's going to come out looking the way it looked in its best days, but I'm confident because the church in the United States is on board the ship. And as I always say, Paul was on board the ship that was in judgment on its way to Rome. The ship broke up, but God said, because of your unfinished assignment, I'm going to save those that are sailing with you.
Yeah.
This church, this media network, we have unfinished global work. If we'll do what the Father calls to do, we'll save those that are with us.
That's true.
Even though they have us as a hostage prisoner on their dumb decision-making, we will ultimately be their salvation.
So good, so good. Well, we are out of time, but I want you to know it's important to remember that whatever is happening in our world is so important for us to understand. And we know this sitting at the table, that God is in control. So we as believers, we don't need to be afraid, but we do need to be active and engaged in our world as kingdom ambassadors. So if you're watching and you feel like you want to be involved in how God is moving, you're part of God's army, then we'd love for you to go online or call that number on the screen. Let one of our prayer partners pray with you and just say, you know what, I am praying for not only America, but for the world, these countries that we mentioned, the leadership that God has raised up. We're going to pray. Well, I do want to thank Lance for joining us at the table. For more on his ministry, you can visit him online at lancewallnau.com. Let us know your thoughts about today's topic by leaving us a comment on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or YouTube. We love hearing from you. And be sure to tune in tomorrow as we continue our chat with Lance of current events and their prophetic significance. Thank you so much for watching. If you need prayer today, call that number on the screen. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye-bye for today.